Like I said, guys, we'll look at the second half of 5-6 today. All right? What did we talk? We talked about inequalities yesterday. How do we know, Kyle? How do we know if it's an inequality? What tells us that? Yeah, it's the little Pac-Man dude, right? All right. So here's some steps. The steps we follow are going to be the same as yesterday, but there might be one little tweak depending on what type of a problem it is. What's the first thing we have to make sure of? Somebody tell me by raising their hand. What's the first thing we have to make sure of before we graph it? Marissa? Yep, we want to make sure it's in y equals mx plus b. All right. So again, just a little recap of yesterday, guys. Mr. Hager and I tried to keep these the steps short, but just to get you guys writing them down again, so hopefully they stick in your mind for the test tomorrow. All right. So let's make sure it's y. Make sure it's in y equals mx plus b. What's the one thing with an inequality that's going to be different? Aiden?
Instead of equals, it's given
Yeah.
something.
So we're one of the inequality signs, right? Pac-Man with a line underneath it, right? One or the other. So make sure it's in y equals mx plus b. Next thing. There's one thing we want you to remember. Don't write this down right now. You don't have to write. We'll get to this later. We're going to do an example a little bit later in the lesson where there's something that's going to happen in the problem that we haven't done so far yet. All right, so we're going to get to this later. We'll remind you guys to come back and write this down. But I want you to have it in your steps. All right, so after we make sure it's in y equals mx plus b, now we're going to do what? So it's in y equals mx plus b. What am I going to do now? Graph. Let's be more specific. What am I going to graph first? Yes, like Antonio said, graph the y-intercept. How do I know what the y-intercept is? When it's in the b spot. Okay, that's one way you can think of it. What's another way you can think of it?
When it
Doesn't
doesn't have an x.
have an x, doesn't have a y, doesn't have a variable. Were you going to say something else, Vanessa?
No.
All right, so those two ways you can think of it. I don't know if anybody thinks of it any other way, or if you know it's in the last spot, but make sure the sign to the left is part of that y-intercept. The positive and negative sign to the left of it goes with it. It's not always going to be positive. You have to look at that sign. So we're going to graph the b, all right? Like Marissa said, graph the b, the y-intercept, and make sure we graph it on the y-axis. Is that vertical or horizontal, the y-axis?
Vertical.
Vertical. All right, so the only time we wouldn't graph on the y-axis if it was a special case, if it was an x only with no y. So we want to graph the b on the y-axis. So now, we've graphed our y-intercept. We got our point on the y-axis. What are we going to do now? After we graph the y-intercept, we're not done. What are we going to do now? Come, Marissa. Use the slope, right? So from the y-intercept, we're going to use the slope, m, to graph another point. All we need to do is graph 2 points. Graph the y-intercept, and from the y-intercept, the other point that the slope will take you to. Right? So we'll take a look at that m, all right, and we'll graph. Now, it's not written down on there, but what if your slope, well, how do you know what the, yeah, you can say the slope's in the m spot. What's another hint that tells you what the slope is? It's going to have the x with it. Good, Aiden. All right, it's going to have the x attached to it. That's another hint that tells you, all right, that's going to be the slope. What if the slope, the number with x, is a whole number? What do you need to do? Josh? Make sure you put it over 1, right? Because slope is what? When we use it to graph, what is it? Rise over run, right? So we got to make sure we have a number on the top, number on the bottom. Some people on the homework last night, I think number 5, got a little freaked out by the fraction. If the number with x is a fraction, it's okay. It's rise over run. It's okay if that number is a fraction. It's going to get a little bit dicey if your y-intercept is a fraction. But if your slope's a fraction, great. Go up, go where it tells you. Now, if your slope is positive, what are you going to do? What direction would you go? Aiden? Up, then where?
To the right.
Yeah, up and to the right. So just to kind of highlight that, if it's a positive slope, so the number with x is positive. Even if it's a fraction, if it's a positive 1/2, All right, we're gonna go up to the right. If it's a positive slope, we'll go up to the right.
There's no dots.
There's no dots on that?
It's
Oh, underneath 4, you can just write it in for step 4, that's okay. You can just write it in the dots for step 4. So if it's a positive slope, we're gonna go up to the right. What's the other type of slope that we could have? Negative. For a negative slope, so if I go up to the right, now don't get tricked here, I go up to the right for a positive slope. What about a negative slope, Vanessa?
Oh, to the left?
No.
It's down to the left.
Down, I agree with down.
To the right. To the right.
Remember, we're only treating that top number as if it's negative. We're not applying the negative to the bottom number. So we always go down to the right. So if it's a negative slope, we'll go down and to the right. Now, if for some reason you were graphing and you were going to go off, like you were graphing a positive slope and you were going up to the right, and all of a sudden you were going to go off the graph, then you go back to the y-intercept and go down to the left. That'd be the only time you go down to the left, is if you're going to go off the graph and you want to do the opposite, down to the left. All right, so those are the two slopes. That's how we're going to use our rise over run. So now we've graphed it. We've got our 2 points. Now what are you going to figure out? We figured out, we know it's y equals mx plus b. We've graphed the y-intercept. We've graphed the slope. Shannon?
What kind of line is it?
Yeah, what kind of a line it's going to be. So that's going to be step 4. We'll look at the inequality sign that's in the problem. All right, the little Pac-Man symbol, to see what type of line to draw. We can either have solid or we can have dotted. One or the other. How do we know which one's going to be which? What's one way we could figure out? What's one way you can figure that out? What can we do? Figure out if it's solid or dotted. What do you think, Bay? How can we figure it out? Think back to yesterday.
It wasn't here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bay, you weren't here yesterday.
You look if it's,
Ashley.
if it has a line underneath.
Okay. You can look, if it has a line underneath, then what's that mean? What's that mean?
What do you mean?
Is it solid or dotted?
If there's a line,
Yeah.
it means it's dotted. Solid.
Solid. All right. What else, Aiden?
You can use the chart.
Absolutely. All right, on your reference sheet tonight, the last 2 questions are going to ask you to go back in your notes and copy down those charts. Copy down the chart for the regular cases, copy down the chart for the special cases. If you have that's a great strategy that Ashley mentioned too. If there's a line underneath, I know it's solid. If there's no line, I know it's dotted. All right, I think Sai, when I was working with Sai today, she mentioned something about a mustache. That's how she remembers it. You don't have to memorize it. You're going to have the chart available to you on the reference sheet if you copy it down from your notes. So look at the sign and see what type of line to draw. Now we're at the last step. So now we've done everything. We've got our dotted line, a solid line. I got one more step. What is it, Ashley?
You have to shade it.
Yeah, see where I'm going to shade. So look at the inequality sign to see where to shade, above or below. Now remember, special case, if it's an X only and no Y, we're either going to shade to the left or the right. Like Mr. Hager mentioned yesterday, there's no up or down there. Now some of you guys, I know some of you guys, like I work with some people today in learning support, they looked at the, oh, the arrow's pointing this way, so I shade over here. The arrow's pointing this way, so I shade over here. So that's a strategy you can use, all right? If you don't have it memorized, you're going to have the chart tomorrow. If you copy the chart down correctly for homework, you're going to know, right? You can look at your chart and do it that way, all right? So then, again, this is a quick little review of how to graph them step by step. Don't remember, there'll be a problem here. I'm not sure, maybe one of the last ones that we do, one of the last examples that we do, that we'll have to go back to these steps and fill one more thing in. Or it's one thing that we didn't get to talk about yesterday. All right? So same steps as yesterday, shading, special cases, all that stuff is the same. There's just one more thing we want to show you guys. Because the thing we show you guys will show up on the test tomorrow. All right, there'll be a problem like that. All right? So make sure you have all your steps. And again, if there's room on the reference sheet tonight, and you want to copy that, I mean, it's not going to be a question that asks you to copy these steps down, but if you want to, that's fine. You can do that. Anything you want on your reference sheet, along with those questions we put on there, you can write whatever you want.
Mr. Roy, what do you think? Word problem? Start off with that.
Put whatever you want.
Yeah. Why don't we start off with the
Just
word problem?
Just so you guys get it, so we don't run out of time. I don't think we will, but
No, I don't think so. So the word problem, that's on the back of your notes. Example 3.
the last one on the bottom of the page on the back.
All right, so this problem says that somebody has at most $10 to spend on grapes and apples to make a fruit salad. What does that mean if they have at most $10? What's another way to say how much they can spend? Yeah? Close. Less than or equal to. Right? So they have at most $10. That means they can spend 10, up to 10. So it says grapes cost $2.50 a pound, apples cost $1 a pound. First thing is we're going to write an inequality, and then we'll worry about graphing it after. All right, so I'm just going to start out with the basic idea. Our total cost has to be what? The total amount of money we spend
How much can you spend?
equal to 10?
Less than.
Less than or equal to 10. So whatever we spend, it's got to be less than or equal.
That's the most we can
10.
spend is $10. If we spend 10, that's okay, but we can spend less, that's fine too.
Okay. Now we have to figure this out. Okay, the total cost. It says grapes cost $2.50 a pound. We don't know how many pounds of grapes we're going to buy. Okay, not yet. So what should we do if we don't know how many pounds of grapes we're going to buy?
Guys, think back to last academic Monday when we did the paint problem.
Antonio?
Like the variables where the amount of money are, because you don't know how much.
The amount of pounds.
So for,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what do you want to do for grapes?
G.
Okay, you're going to graph it.
Uh,
So-
X and-
And in fact, if you look at the graph, I think they kind of give you a hint. Grapes, where did they put grapes?
X-axis.
They put grapes on the x-axis. Yep. And where did they put apples? On the y-axis. So they've kind of already made the decision for you which one is which. Grapes is x, apples is y. So I'm just going to put that in. Actually, I'm just going to write it here. Grapes is x, apples is going to be y. All right. So it says that we're going to buy, the grapes are $2.50 a pound, and we're going to buy X pounds. So what would you do with the $2.50 and the X to find out how much you spend on grapes? You would multiply, right? If you buy if each pound is $2.50, you multiply how much you pay per pound times how many pounds of grapes you buy. So it's $2.50 times what? X. If you buy 1 pound of grapes, it's $2.50 times 1. If you buy 2 pounds of grapes, it's $2.50 times 2. It's $5. Right? But we can only buy so many pounds, and then we'll hit our limit, how much we can spend. What else are we going to buy besides grapes? Apples. So apples are going to cost money too. So what are we going to do when we find out how much we spend on apples and how much we spend on grapes? We have to take the 2 and do what?
Plus.
We have to plus.
Plus $1 Y.
Plus $1. So you could just put 1, or if you want to write $1, that's fine. 1y. And our cost has to be what again? Equal to $10? Less than or equal to. There's your inequality. Well, it's not ready to graph, but that is right.
You're not ready.
Yeah, it's not ready to graph. Now, because we dealt with money, we rounded everything to 2 decimal places. But what's 1.00 the same as?
1.1.
It's just what?
Is it just 1/1?
It's just 1. Okay. It's the same as just 1y. The reason we put 1.00 is because it's money. Now, what's 2.50 the same as? What is it? You could just put 2.5. It's just 2.5. Okay, so I'm just kind of simplifying it a little bit. You don't have to write 0.00 for 1. Okay, there's your equation, or inequality. Now, there's a couple different ways we can graph this one. One way is to get y by itself. And I think that's what we'll do here. So can anybody tell me my last step to get y by itself? Marissa? Yep. Subtract 2.5. Subtract 2.5. That's gone. And Marissa, can you tell me what you get? Plus 10. Perfect. As far as writing the equation part, that's all you have to do. I'd give you half credit for that. But now graphing it, you're probably better off to rearrange it. Okay. Maggie, what's my y-intercept there?
10.
10. So on the y-axis, I'm going to put a dot at 10.
Hey guys, all that is like it's like the upper right-hand corner of the graph. Right, usually you can do all 4 parts, all 4 quadrants. That's just the upper right quadrant. That's all. It's just a piece of it.
How come we don't have the other quadrants on here? How come we don't have the other quadrants? How come we only have the upper right one?
Because they forgot to put it on that.
Nope, I didn't forget. And by they, I mean me. Yeah. Okay, what are we thinking of when we spend money? Like, what kind of numbers can you spend? You could spend 0, sure, we get 0 on it. Josh?
You go to the positive.
You can't spend extra.
You can't spend negative, you can't buy negative pounds. That's why we're not looking at the negative axis. Okay? So when we draw our line, it's not really going to be a line. It's going to be a line segment. It's going to have a start point and a stop point. That's the start. It does not go beyond that point. Okay? Now we got to find another point. So let's use our slope. What's my slope here? Negative 2.5. And what would be in the bottom for the run? 1. So from the y-intercept, what do I have to do? Down 2.5. Right 1. And the slope is always going to work out so something nice happens. Okay, watch what happens if you go 2.5 down, 1 to the right, as much as you can. So we're going to go down 2.5, right 1. Go down 2.5, right 1. Okay, do it about 2 more times. Down 2.5, right 1, down 2.5, right 1. Notice where I landed. I landed right on the axis. That's always going to happen. It doesn't have to, but the problems that we picked, it will. Solid line or dotted line for this one?
Solid.
Solid.
It had a little mustache.
Yep. Remember, don't put arrows on it. It doesn't go past the 4. You can't buy negative pounds of apples. Okay, so stop there. All right, so we've written an equation. Okay, you got that?
Can I please have everyone's attention? Just a reminder.
All right, so we wrote our inequality. We've graphed the line. Now I got to decide where to shade. Where do I shade? Above or below? Look at your symbol. Kyle? Why? Yeah, because it's less than. Less than, we always shade below. So shade below. And now, the last part this is important for what's on the test. It says identify and interpret two solutions. Where do you look visually for solutions? Where are the solutions in this problem? Everything what, Kyle? Everything that's on the line or below. So can somebody give me,
On the line is included.
somebody give me a coordinate that would be a solution to this? There's millions of them. Infinite. Kyle, can you give me one? 1, 4. So he picked that one right there. I agree with you.
Anything in that shaded area.
I'm going to ask what that means in a second, though, in terms of our problem. Can somebody give me one more? Antonio?
1-7.
1, 7. Yep. Still, it's a little closer, but still where it needs to be.
Even on the line would work.
So, what does 1, 4 mean in this problem? Exactly. You bought, let me write that in. Can you say that again, Kyle?
1 pound of grapes and 4 pounds of apple.
Yeah. 1, 4 means 1 pound of grapes and 4 pounds of apples. That's what you bought. And if you bought that, you wouldn't spend over $10. How about 1, 7? What does that mean? What did you buy for the salad in that case?
1 pound of grapes and 6 pounds.
Yep. You bought 1 pound of grapes, 7 pounds of apples. Okay, so on the test, I'm going to ask you to pick 2 points, just like that. You can pick any 2 in the shaded area. Just don't pick anything above the shaded area. Then it wouldn't be right.
Guys, what could Mr. Hager do to make sure that those are solutions? Anybody remember, Josh? Yeah, I could plug it in, right? I could plug in 1 for X, 4 for Y. What would happen when I do that? What would it give me? What would it give Mr. Hager, Josh? It gives you a true statement. This is just like we did example 1 yesterday in the notes, where he said which of the following is not a solution. That's when you plugged it in and none of them worked. All right? You had to find the one that didn't work. This is the same thing here. But you don't have to plug it in. You don't have to check it. All I ask you to do is once you graph it and do your shading, pick 2 coordinates from inside the shaded part. That's all you have to do.
Okay. Any questions on that? All right, let's, guys, we're going to look at 2C. Okay, example 2C, there's something different in this problem that you've never had to do before.
I think I called it example, I think we called it example 3 by accident on your notes. You can just cross it out and put 2C. It's right in the middle. It says example 3, then it has remember below it. There's a little blank. So just cross it out and make it 2C.
Okay, so let's just start to solve it and see what happens. And when we get to the point where I need to remind you about something that hasn't come up yet, I'll do that. Okay, we want to graph it. What's wrong with this to graph it? What's not by itself? Why? What could I move first? Subtract the what? Nope, there's no 1 to subtract.
Subtract the X.
Yep, subtract the X. Okay, so we're going to subtract X. That leaves me with negative 2y is less than, what would be on the other side? Perfect, negative X plus 6.
Guys, you have to write the example today. I'm gonna lazy.
Now what?
Yeah, you're not gonna lazy. Should say that.
It's our, Ashley, what's our last step? Yeah, what do we have to do with that -2? Yeah, we don't want the -2 next to the y. So we're going to divide by -2. Okay. Thoughts before I do that? We've talked about this.
Wow, oh man. Look at people remember.
Yeah.
We divide by 2 by, or divide 2 by.
Yep, you're going to do it everywhere. So he said that. But we've never, well, not recently, we haven't divided an inequality by a negative. You have to flip the sign. So this is the extra step.
Yeah, so guys, go back to the front side of your notes, right, where it says remember, and write in, when you divide by a negative, you have to flip the inequality sign. What in?
We have a thing right underneath the problem.
Well, you write it there too, and also write it on the front, also write it in the front too.
If you forget to flip it, what's going to happen is when you go to shade, you're going to shade the wrong side. You'll accidentally shade above when you should have shaded below, or vice versa. Okay, so your 2's cancel, negatives cancel, and so I don't forget, I'm going to flip the sign right now. Okay, Dominic, what's on the left-hand side? Yep, just the y. And now, just to make this a little clearer, what number is in front of the x? A 1. So really, I'm dividing -1 by -2. What's a negative divided by a negative? Positive. When I have a fraction with x, I like to put my x next to the fraction rather than just in the top. Yes.
Are you staying
And then 6 divided by -2. -3. Okay, so not only when you divide by a negative, you're going to be careful with your arithmetic, but you have to remember to flip that sign. Good. Any questions on that one? You could put it on the front or the back, as long as you remember it.
Or both.
Just remember it.
There'll be something like this on the test tomorrow, where you have to flip the sign.
Okay, does anyone want to graph that one? Anybody want to go through how to graph it? Or you think we're okay? You want to go through? Okay, you can take a look at it. So we got our graph. Somebody tell me my first step. Go to -3 on the y-axis. 1, 2, 3 down. Got it?
Then go up 1/2.
So that 1/2 doesn't mean to go up 1/2.
Go up 1 and then
Over, which way is over? To the right. Up 1, over 2, up 1, over 2. Just do it a couple times. All right, now, solid line or dotted line? Dotted. How do you know?
There's no line in there.
Yeah. It's just the greater than or the less than. There's no line under it. So don't make it solid. Okay, are we good? Anything else? Yeah, with the shade. Where should we shade? Jordy, where should I shade?
Go above.
How do you know?
I just guess.
You just guessed. Can somebody explain why Jordy is correct?
Oh.
Vanessa? Yeah, look at the sign. Greater. Okay, greater, think above. And on the test, that's all you have to do to shade. Just, that's fine. If you want to shade really well, then you can shade the whole thing. I'll give you some colored pencils.
Oh, I was just gonna ask.
You really want some? I have some.
Do you have crayons too?
I do not. I do have colored pencils.
I wanna really lift one up so you can't see it.
No.
Okay, any questions on 2C?
So guys, that's the only, like Mr. Hager was talking about, that's the only new piece today. It's the only new piece. Because on the homework last night, number 6, we had you rearrange. All right, something like that. We talked about that yesterday on your notes, right? So all the stuff that we have left is all pretty much reviewed.
All right, do you guys want to do, that's a rearrange. That one's also a rearrange, but a little easier. And those two are special cases. So let's pick one of the rearrange.
The harder ones that we gotta need to learn.
2B? 2B is harder.
2B.
Do you guys have this written on your paper already?
They don't have, they have the space, Mr. Hager, they just have to write it.
Let's, actually, you know what? I think we can leave that number as a,
I like what you're doing there, Mr. Hager.
I think 8 is okay. 8's fine, because then we're going to, yeah. I was worried for a second, but we're not, we're fine. So, what would be our first step here? Do you guys want to do one that's a fraction, or do you want to do one that comes out to a decimal?
When you divide, it becomes a fraction.
Yeah. So, this one would have a slope that's a fraction, but the y-intercept would not be a fraction. Does anyone want to do one where the y-intercept would also be a fraction? Could have one on the test. All right, let's make that a 5. So it's a little smaller, but now it's still gonna be a fraction. What's our first step?
Get that Y by itself.
Get the y by itself. So there's 2 things you got to do. Careful, not 3.
Subtract 3x.
3 with the x. Keep the x with it. So 2y. Should I flip the sign here?
Nope.
No, I didn't divide by a negative. I subtracted, but we don't flip it when you subtract. What's on the right side now?
Minus 3x plus y.
Make sure the x goes, make sure your number with x goes after the sign. Keep it in the right format.
Now we almost have y by itself, but with one step left.
Divide everything by 2.
We're going to divide everything by 2. So I'm going to put y is greater than or equal to. I'm going to keep this, negative 3 over 2x. But the 5 over 2, I have to graph that. So I need to know what number that is. What's 5? What's half of 5? 5 divided by 2. It's about 2.5. That's my y-intercept. So you're going to put a dot at 2.5. And now everything we measure is from right there. Okay, where do I go from that dot? What direction? I need 2 directions. Up or down, and then I need a right direction. Ashley?
You go down 3 and over
What direction?
2. To the right.
Yep. So we're going to just count carefully.
Every half.
Down 1, down 2, down 3. Right, how many?
To the right 2.
Right 2. Let's do it again. Down 1, 2, 3. Right 2.
It's going halfway.
Now, Aiden, solid or dotted line?
Solid.
All right. Can somebody explain why it should be solid?
It's got the
Emma?
mustache.
Yeah. It's got the line under it?
The mustache is catching on.
You're good. And my last step.
Oh, you got shade.
Shade, which way?
The left, oh, no, the right.
This is a greater than.
It's greater than.
So greater than shade, yeah. We think of that one as above.
Don't break your kneecap.
Okay, so out of the two that you had to rearrange, that one was probably the hardest one, except you don't have a negative. Okay, we just did one with a negative. Let's finish up with special case.
Well, that's it, they might be able to do those.
Which one is that?
You want to have them try it?
We did it on homework last night.
All right.
Actually, special cases are
We're
fun.
probably gonna go to the last slide mistake, what do you think?
I don't only know get about is where the shade. I just need to.
So try these two special cases.
Oh, those are fun.
What's that size paper?
1A
Work with somebody.
and
You
1B.
guys, if you're not sure, look at your, you may want, when you're doing these guys, you may want to have your notes up from yesterday.